Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and we got another First Class guest up in the building today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we are live in Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Marv Beyond the Glass. What's going on, Marv? I feel like we haven't done the show in a minute, but it's good to see you again, brother. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, we got a First Class guest up in the building today. Now, he's not a newbie. He's not a rookie. He's actually alum of First Class, Second Place. But this is the first time that we actually getting to know the real deal of who this man is. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I Am Zain is in the building. What is going on, Zain?
Hey, how's it going, man? Jason, thank you.
Man.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Man,
I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, hanging out with you, whatever the case may be, man. So, as I mentioned before, this is not your first time on First Class, Second Place. The first time, it was you and Joe Fucarino of Jersey Media. It was the first episode. That was the first time we actually met each other.
Yes.
And little did I know that we were actually going to be in a really good working relationship since then. And then the second time you were on my show, it was a really fun episode where we did a whole dedication episode to Quentin Tarantino on his birthday. We just did a breakdown of all 9 of his movies.
And that was a really good breakdown.
Yeah. I thought that, and you know what? I got to give you credit because you came in clutch. I had somebody that wanted to come on the show, but he pulled out at the last minute, and you just happened to be right there. You had just finished doing one podcast already.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so then afterwards you were doing back to back, but I appreciate it nonetheless. That was actually one of my favorite episodes that we ever did, and that was around the time when I was still trying to figure out my footing with the podcast. You know, like I was still doing like a little bit of sports talk and then mental health talk and then breaking down movies and stuff. Like I don't feel like I had an identity, but at the same time, the first 50 episodes, especially when it was audio only, I don't really take it back because I was, even though I was trying to find my footing and trying to figure out what the show's going to be about, at least I got up and running as opposed to just, because before I started the show, I was just procrastinating. Like, the procrastinating game was like a fucking killer for me.
Bro, I feel you, man. I have a podcast which I want to rejuvenate again. It's called the Coffee and Critique podcast.
Yes,
yeah,
I remember that. That was a lot of fun, bro. And I love the title because it's exactly what you get.
Right. Just and now I'm thinking of more things to do with it. But essentially, like, it's not easy just being a host and then just like, all right, I'm gonna bring this person on. I have to, like, what kind of personality am I gonna bring to the table? Am I gonna be me, or am I gonna create this alternate version of myself? But like, what I loved about like the episode that we're on when we were talking about movies, it just made me think like, yo, I could just rate my favorite movies the same way. Like Die Hard, I did a presentation with like my friends and we all go movies together, and they were so excited and they were also polarized like, Die Hard is not the best action movie of the 90s. I was like, find me a better action movie in that time period.
Well, that's a problem with that sense because, first of all, it came out in 1988, not in the 90s.
88. And then the second one, 90. And then the third one.
The third was 95.
Right?
The third one, which is probably my favorite.
That's the best one.
Yeah, that was the highest grossing film of 1995. And rightfully so,
right?
As far as I'm concerned,
right.
Now I got a question for you, and this gets me in trouble all the time. And even I think, like, we'll just see what Marv's reaction is. Do you believe that Die Hard, the first one, is a Christmas movie?
It's tough, but it technically is a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie, man. And I had to look at it and break it down, but it literally is happening at Christmas time. It's like Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah.
And he's going through all this whole thing. I'm like, come on, man. He's literally wearing all the Christmas stuff. He had the hat. Like, he's just destroying everything on Christmas Eve. Yes, rightfully so. That is a Christmas movie.
Okay. See, the thing is, I argue that it's not.
It's not.
Listen, I'm not going down this rabbit hole again. If you guys want to watch live at Bravery Studios with Marv and Chris Abalo and me and Hugo Boy, where we break down if it is a Christmas movie or not, you guys can go watch that on YouTube. Check it out. I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now. But what I will say is that the only argument that I have is if I watch Jingle All the Way, or Home Alone, or The Santa Claus, or any other Christmas movie that are legit, Elf, whatever, I feel like I'm in the Christmas spirit. When I watch Die Hard, I don't feel like I'm in the Christmas spirit, even though I love Die Hard. I think it's one of the greatest action films of all time. Some people say it is the greatest action movie of all time. Bruce Willis was my hero at one point, but that to me, I just don't get the Christmas spirit when I watch it. Like, I actually don't feel like singing Joy to the World. I want to say fuck you and shoot you up and everything.
Or yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Exactly, yeah.
One of those. But
if he said that in a Santa Claus voice, then maybe, but he didn't, so.
Right. You know what? It is tough because there was no, like, Christmas cheer. Like, what was the Christmas value in there? So technically, I feel like that's why people wouldn't consider it like the Christmas movie, but I get it because where's the value?
Right. But like I said, we're not going down that rabbit hole. We can talk this about another time because otherwise we'll just be here for hours and hours.
Definitely with me. You don't want to have that conversation. You know what? That's like my favorite movie of all time. But yeah, like, you know, a movie I think, you know, is great. Like, they're bringing back. When did Gladiator come out?
It came out in 2000, I believe.
2000, right? Yeah. The fact that it's like 24, like it's like 24 years
24
later.
Years, yeah.
Like I feel like this has the same exact energy it did back then. To be honest, and I think that's well. Great.
I mean, Ridley Scott is at the director's chair, so obviously he knows what the experience was the first time around. So he's definitely gonna, you know, rehash that energy and bring it to this one.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to it.
And Denzel too. Like,
I mean, anybody that knows me knows that Denzel Washington is my favorite actor of all time. So,
yo, I'm just so excited, and it's just that you have one of the greatest movies, Gladiator, and then you put Denzel in there. I just feel like they've been dropping a lot of bangers this year, man.
Yeah, no, this has been a very good year for movies overall. I agree, bro. But I want to get back into you though, because like, even though you were on my show before, I feel like we never really got a chance to really know the real you, the real Zain. And, you know, we'll keep it short and sweet and everything because I pretty much know a lot of this, but just to give you familiarity with my audience. But it seems to me that you really got into creating at a very early age, because I don't know a lot of people. I mean, I know a ton of people, but I don't think I know enough people that are well versed in it as you. Like you arguably might be the most professional person as far as like cinematography as far as I'm concerned. Like I've never worked with anybody or seen anybody that has like the skill and the technical work that you do with it. Like, I don't think I know anybody else, at least that doesn't come to mind right now, that is like on it as you are.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And it really comes from, I was a single child growing up. So like I had to entertain myself. And it was my mom, she was working. So there was a time where I had to like watch myself. So I'm watching straight up action movies, and then I had my toys, and I'm just playing with my toys, creating narratives. And then when I got to like 5th grade, I started writing stories and then creating little comic books and whatnot that were confiscated and then given back to me, by my mom and whatnot. But it was just the factor that like I got into photography, but the true love was like filmmaking.
Right.
And I got into that in 2015. And then I said, I'm going to excel in this because that's all I do. Like some people like, with sports and basketball, that's what they practice. Yeah. I mentally practice like filming. Like that's what I do. So I personally, my philosophy with it is like, I just take an idea and how can I just captivate the audience by like focusing on that character. So like I take a character and just throw them through like life. Like that's the main thing.
Now, even in the beginning, when you already knew what you wanted to do, because it seems like you already knew at a very early age what you wanted to do with your life,
right?
Because of the industry that it is, and because of the preconceived notions that there is, and because like I remember my father specifically, he would say, "Oh, you want to get into that business? You got to be extremely lucky to actually succeed in that." Did you experience any pushback or any like preconceived notions or kind of cautionary tales of before getting into that? But you just said, "I don't give a fuck. This is what I want to do."
Honestly, if it wasn't for seeing like a Steven Spielberg like video snippet where he said like if you have like a cell phone, you need to just go out there and film. You have no excuse. He said, I used to shoot on 80 millimeter and then I just did what I had to do and then that was it. The technology we have today, just film. And my discouragement to myself was like, I don't have like the Ari Alexa. I don't have like the Sony. And then I thought about it. I said, what do I have now? And then how can I make it seem like it's like $1 million camera, like a Hollywood video? And it was all about lighting. And then not even just that, but the sound. If you focus 60% on the sound, I promise you the audience will appreciate it.
Right. And that's actually something that I learned from you and also from Marv as well, where, I thought before I met you guys and before I really wanted to get into all the things that we're doing now, I thought that I would have to like save money to get the best possible equipment and make it like, things that was going to cost me $1,000 and max out my credit cards. And I'm going to take, but the thing is that there's ways around it. There's,
Right.
you don't have to have the most perfect camera in order for you to shoot something of worthy, like
Yes.
it's all about lighting. It's about color correcting. It's this, that, like there's ways to go around it. You don't have to necessarily buy the most expensive thing out there.
Right.
And I think that's a misconception for people that even want to get into something as, not minimal, but something like, pretty simplistic like photography.
Right.
Like, because, you don't have to have the most expensive Leica in order to get the best quality pictures.
No, you do not. You could use film camera and you get the same concept. And it's how you light it in your head. And I constantly, because I like watching movies, I treat my photography as like stills in a movie, and that's what drives it. And then I have my idols is Peter Lindbergh and Andy Leibovitz for photography.
Okay.
So I take that visual element and I bring it into my filming process. And then also like what I do like often is I film with my camera and create a movie. Like just anything. Like what can you do in like one day and then create a movie, like a feature film movie with no script, just start shooting.
Yeah.
And then cut that together.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that gets lost in the sauce too is that for people that want to be filmmakers, one of the things that can be very discouraging is the fact that they have to wait for everything to fall in place so that they can work on that one project, which you appreciate the love and care that you want to have for your first project.
Yeah.
But it's okay to start somewhere. Like, I told this story before with this podcast where, my very first episode, I did it in a closet because it was soundproof and I just had like one little cheap recorder, but at least I got that episode out, as opposed to just waiting for me to find a perfect equipment that was going to cost me $1,000 and the right camera and a studio lighting and all that stuff. If I waited for all of that, I probably wouldn't have got anything off the ground. But it's just all about starting somewhere. And I think, honestly, there's where aspiring filmmakers get discouraged because they feel like they have to have everything in place and wait for the perfect time when, just start somewhere. Like the first try doesn't have to be perfect. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that, one of our the most legendary filmmakers of all time, Stanley Kubrick, I bet you maybe way back in the day, you know what? Here's even a better example. David Fincher.
Oh, yeah.
David Fincher's first film was Alien 3. He regrets that film. Do you realize how many directors cherish their first film because that's like their child?
Right.
He rebukes that one. He disowns it. And he's still known as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. I mean, he's had banger after banger after banger, but he had a rocky start with Alien 3.
Yeah, and Alien 3 was interesting because visually it was like very stunning. Like honestly, it was like, oh man, but I do understand because my first film that I put like on Amazon, that was like a passion project. But then after that, I was like, you know what? I could do better. You know what I'm saying? I learned. I had like actors that were so great. His name Ankit, and then the lead actress, her name was Alexandra, and they did such an amazing job. But I wrote too much in the lines, and they remembered it. So I said, you know what? It's a learning experience. Let me cut it down and make it more impactful, and let me focus on the visual movement of things. You know what I'm saying? And moving forward, I said I got to do better. Every project, you got to keep moving, because if you stay so huddled in that one, you're not practicing anymore. You just like, it's kind of like you're waiting for that perfect moment, and it's just, there's no such thing.
Has there ever been a moment where everything was going great, but then afterwards maybe you're feeling a little bit too much of yourself and your ego is kind of inflated a little bit, and then something happens and fucking humbles you, and then you're like, okay, I got to start from scratch. I got to get back up and figure out what I did wrong and do a much better job than I did before?
I would say it was less about filmmaking, more about directing.
Okay.
Because often you find yourself as like, especially if you're an indie filmmaker, you're going to be writing, directing, filming, right? All three of those things are different roles, and sometimes we meld it together and we don't understand that they are separate. So directing an actor does take a lot of practice to do. So I had to learn how to handle egos. And then, so say certain things as, oh yeah, can you do this? And there's like, that's not how you go about saying it. You know what I'm saying? Right. Maybe break it down a little better, maybe modeling it better. And if the actor needs time, you don't let the actor do what they got to do. Like if they're on script and then sometimes they might say something off script, don't, hey, can you say that exact line? Because sometimes when they improv, it might be golden for the entire script. So my message is never stay married to the script. It's a guide, but it's not meant to like to say verbatim. You know what I'm saying? Give
Absolutely.
that script wiggle room.
Do you think that for people that want to just stick to the script, they're hindering the creative process for everybody else involved?
Honestly, it depends on what the concept is and like what they're trying to do. But I do feel like it does hinder you, because if I were to stay really fixated, because there was certain things recently that I filmed over the weekend where there was a cat and mouse scene. There was no fighting sequence, but because the lead actress is a stunt choreographer, she helped me to figure out how to do the scene in a safe way, but also interesting at the same time. And I said, you know what? Instead of saying, nah, it's not part of the script, I just want it to be done like this, I said, let me hear what she has to say, and let's see how that works. Does it make the script better, or does it make it worse? So if it's better than my idea, I'm gonna take that suggestion. I don't want to put my ego ahead of in front of the success of the project, because it's not just for me; it's for everybody involved.
And I kind of had a similar experience, because I actually directed a TV show, like little some, and I had a lot of fun doing everything.
Little flex.
Well, because you know what it is. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like acting is a little bit more my speed, and I'll delve into that a little bit. But for right now, I just want to say, sticking with directing, that excuse me, I really had to learn that I had to be the head man in charge, but at the same time, I had to balance that attitude, for lack of a better term, where not to get on anybody's bad side, not to hurt anybody's ego or put anybody down, because I had to be the guy in charge at that time. Right. And I called myself a couple of times slipping. Like, there was even moments where I would aggressively say quiet on the set, because I was like aggravated or frustrated with something that's going on. Like that's like that in a way that's kind of counterproductive. Like, the people are going to work against you if you're showing them attitude or doing something like that. So I kind of had to check myself as far as that's concerned. But one of the things that I realized is that would I want to continue directing? Sure, maybe. But I think I realized that acting is a little bit more my speed. And I feel like this goes back to like a little bit of generational trauma. And what I mean by that is, if I'm really honest with myself, when I was younger, I really wanted to act, because I saw somebody like Bruce Willis in Die Hard, ironically, and I thought, I want to be that guy. Right. But I was also very camera shy. Like, I didn't think that I had a face for the camera or anything like that. So I figure, what if I just work behind the camera? And that's a dream that I had for a very long time. But now I kind of realize that I'm overcoming that doubt of thinking that I'm not worthy enough to be in front of a camera. And now I figured out that acting is probably more my speed as opposed to directing. Now, there's nothing wrong with directing. I enjoyed it and everything, but I feel like I really needed to get to this in order to get to what I really, really wanted to do.
I see. So you want to direct more so, or?
I mean, I think acting is really where I really want to make my like bread, for so to speak.
I got you.
But I wouldn't be opposed to directing, because at the end of the day, I feel like acting was really the one thing that really made me feel whole. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
I feel like the directing was kind of an excuse for me to hide behind the camera, but still be involved in the creative process.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, it is, because I want to act as well, just so that way I could get a better idea how the creative process is, so I could better help new actors in that process directing. So when I do. Sometimes I would take classes with actors to understand like how to get into that mode, that mindset, but also how to get out of it. Because that's the thing that it's also helpful. Like, when someone gets stuck in a character, you're like, what the fuck do I do, man? Like, you have to, granted, this therapy is needed, but on set, you might need to like problem solve quick.
Right.
And there's a lot of problem solving when you film. So learning how to learning how to navigate through people's personalities, their egos and whatnot. It's all about just communication. And I think directing is for me has been hard, but I've been learning in that process. The filmmaker, I was like, yeah, I could do the camera stuff. That's cool. But directing the actor, blocking scenes, I was like, oh man, I got to do. There was a lot of things I had to do before pressing play. I mean, record on the camera.
Right.
You know, so that was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. And see, here's also a little bit of a pro and con when it comes to I Am Zain, and I'll give you some context. So I already told you that I don't think I know anybody personally in my life, in my phone contact, that can create things as stunningly visually as you do, as far as your film is concerned. The con, though, is that it takes a long time. I mean, I feel like we could work on a project from 2 years ago and it probably won't be released until like 4 years later. But that's because I know that you're very meticulous, you're very specific, you know what you want, and you're not going to stop until you actually get it. So it's like all right, I want to see this. I want to see this magic that we did, but anybody that's going to work with you, there definitely needs to be a sense of patience, because
Right.
you need to get this done, and it may take forever, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, you're going to feel good about it, because when you finally see the final product, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, man. And you know what it is? It's because I know it, and I like, and there's actors that I work with that they just keep working, so they know that what the waiting time is. So when I do these projects, I try to make it as short and sweet. But then it's like, yo, you gotta work. There's like, life just hits you from all corners. Like, I'm doing the sound, I'm doing the editing, I'm coordinating with like the music and all that. And then it's just like, there's not enough time in the day. So it honestly, it's just like, I work with people, and I let them know. I was like, hey, we filmed here. It's going to be chopped and edited X amount of time. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what the script is. Now, granted, what we worked on close to the end was like 3 minutes, and we filmed that like a few months ago. It was like in June, right?
Right.
Yeah, in June. Like from June onwards was literally life.
Yeah.
Life just hit me hard, man. I was like, and the thing was, I had edited like at least like a month out, because I just wanted to get the concept. And then once it was fine-tuned, I was like, something was missing. I was like, we gotta have to set up the ADR. And that shit took forever to set up. But at the end of the day, I realized it's well worth it, because it's new content to everybody else. So once it drops, then people are gonna be like, yo, that was dope. And it's like a portfolio. It takes its time. But those projects bring other people aboard so that they could help out and make the process quicker, because my goal is really to get an editor, build a team, so that way I could just film and I could just send that over. They chop it up, it's done. I don't have to like see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a process. But like when you are like a one-man band, man, it's honestly, some people are like, yo, how do you do it? I just do it, man. I don't. Like, granted, it takes some time, but I just think about the end result, opposed to thinking about, damn, I should get this done in 2 weeks. Or if I rush it, it's just, I feel like it's not going to be right. I like to give things my 100% of attention, opposed to just chopping it up and sending it out. You know what I'm saying? Because that sound is that's so important, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, hey, I'm a sucker for visuals, and I'm just as much as a sucker for audio as well.
Right.
It has to be perfect. I mean, I think one of the greatest sound mixing and sound editing that I've ever seen, I've ever heard in a film, I should say, was Saving Private Ryan.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I think that one of the reasons why those war scenes were realistic was not just because of the visual aspect, but you could just close your eyes and just listen to it, and it's pure hell.
You hear the bullets hitting metal. You just hear people
explosions,
running, the sand running, people just dirt hitting the ground. You're like, damn. And the fact that you said that is very important. If you can close your eyes and you could hear where they're at, with, you know what I'm saying? That's how you know you did the sound exactly what you needed to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, you've done your fair share of short films, and, you have them on your YouTube page and so on and so forth. And I know that it's just you, that's just you from being a creative. Like, you just think of something and then you put it to fruition, you execute it, and then boom, you put it out there.
Right.
But I'm also thinking that I'm seeing a lot of people that are not necessarily in the industry, but they're getting into short films and like they're not working on them or being in them, but just watching them, just being a spectator.
Right.
And it's happening a lot more frequent now. Do you think that's also a symptom of just people's attention spans are just getting shorter as we go along?
So you're saying like there's more short film content being pumped out?
Right.
Okay. So I personally think it's all about funding. and they're creating like a portfolio. Because like you said before with like the passion projects,
Yeah.
bro, feature film, that was what, when things were starting out, people in their camera, people were taking a long time because it was a feature film, and they said, I'm not doing no short film, I'm doing a feature film. That's why it would take so damn long, and actors are like, yo, I can't wait because I've been waiting for this to add to my portfolio, and some people have been waiting 5 years, some 10 years, and you're just like, you're not the same person, and plus you lost out on gigs that you needed. So for quicker turnaround for your portfolio, the short films is where it was at. And it's also kind of like a good portfolio, because if you could make a short film dynamic, then that means you could get hired for like commercial work and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's not so much the attention span of everybody. It's more so like a producer or an investor. I could get them to sit there for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I don't think I could get them to sit there for like an hour and a half or close to 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? So show me what you got. So if you send me 5 minutes of content, you know what I'm saying, and it's a short film, or 6 minutes, and it's like, yo, that was dope, what can he do with like a feature film? And it's also just quicker turnaround for the actors too. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of money just for one short film.
Okay.
You got to pay, the food, man, the food. You got to spend so much money on food. You have the transportation, and you want to reduce your time at least under like 12 hours of production. If you could do it within there, you're done. You're good to go. But anything more than that, that's going to mean, oh, I got to bring him back for another day. You know? So that's the thing. But yeah, that's what I believe is the reason why there's so much short film content.
Yeah, no, because I'm starting to see it more and more now, and I've done my fair share of short films, and you know what, we actually could talk about one that's actually, so we're actually filming this on a Thursday, but the thing that we worked on is premiering tomorrow. But as you're watching this right now, you could now catch it on YouTube on his page at I Am Zain, right?
I Am Zain Studios.
I Am Zain Studios, available right now, close to the end. So I guess just, you know, not to, you know, no spoilers or anything, it's only like a 3-minute film or whatever,
Right.
but what was your idea when you wrote that script? Like, where did the inspiration come from?
So when I wrote the idea of someone that was just sitting on the bench minding their business, just reading a book, and all of a sudden in broad daylight someone just sits down next to them like a stranger, and they're talking with such confidence as if the job was already done. And you're like, what's the job? Like, what if they were an assassin? They already killed the guy, and the guy is just slowly dying, and he's just so confident that I just like to write films where it was like either close to the end, no pun intended, or like in the middle of like a film. Like that's how I frame like my short films. It's like, yo, what happened before and what's gonna happen after? So in this movie, it was more so like, all right, this is like the end of the movie, and maybe the stranger got his revenge. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the concept that I had. And it's like, yo, how can I introduce that in such a short way and only have the villain say, like, you said nothing, but your emotions and your body language said everything. You know what I'm saying? And it honestly sold that vibe, like, yo, he's really, like, he's dying in this, like, he's and then it was just, to me personally, I just like challenging myself. One location, how can you make it suspenseful? What can you do? That's my mental homework. So sometimes when I walk around, I get inspired by just creating a character and then throwing obstacles at them. And that's my motivation.
And, you know, aside from just like being a horror fanatic and into thrillers and stuff like that, I know you personally. You're a very funny guy, and you even show that in your films. And I think the one that shows what your sense of humor is like, and it was the film Only Slice.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a funny one. And believe it or not, I didn't write that, but I was with the writer writing that, and I was like, it was a funny concept, and I do want to write more like. I want to write comedy elements because I do have funny material, but I was like, when am I gonna turn that on for the audience? Right now it's been thriller mode, but I do want to have like that horror thing where you think it's one thing, but it's the complete opposite. Yeah. Like one film, I'll give you a little snippet that I'm working on. It's called The Cookout.
Okay.
And it has to, and they go in thinking it's one thing and it's comedy, but then they find out the shit that they're eating is not what they wanted. You know what I'm saying? And you just and that's the whole concept is like, all right, I'm gonna take this situation. It's funny when you're getting in there, and then all of a sudden it just gets dark, and you're like, what? It's like, what's going on at the cookout? Well, you're gonna find out. And I always frame it around like if it's A24, that's what the movie it entails. Like it's a A24 vibe.
I like that. Yeah, and I'm a fan of A24. Absolutely.
Right.
I also wanted to ask you real quick, based on some of the videos that you post on your YouTube page, why did you decide to quit YouTube specifically?
So it's funny because that was a joke. So literally the episode right after I did it like I had like I was doing like an episode a week, and when I did that episode was still like increasing, but it's clickbait. And that was the whole point of the video.
Look at that. Yeah,
You know,
I had
it
a
was-
feeling too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was clickbait because when you say, "Oh, I quit," and everybody's, "Oh, why did you quit?" and people are engaged. So I said, "That's interesting."
That's what happened to me because I'm thinking, but does Zayn know something about what's going on with YouTube that I don't know? Is like it's about to be in trouble, about to be shut down, like TikTok or something like that. And then you, it's like you have insider information. I want to know, but at the end of the day, it was just clickbait.
It was and the funny thing about it is that I had multiple episodes prior. I already knew I was gonna do why I quit, like literally a year prior to that. So I did that in leading into it. So because right after I just dropped another episode, and I plan on doing like a season 2. So I don't plan on quitting, but I the whole point of that was to motivate people that it's okay to feel like it's overwhelming and you want to quit because of X, Y, Z, but just know that if you keep on pushing through, you're gonna get there. And it was tackling imposter syndrome. That was the main
Gotcha.
message of that, because sometimes you're like, damn, I'm not getting the views that I want. I'm not getting the attention that I want. But at the end of the day, are you happy creating that content?
And see, this is why we're simpatico, because I had a feeling that's what it was, and I just wanted you to put into more context because I feel the exact same way with discouragement. Like I know people that have stopped creating, whether it was podcasting or being social media or whatever, because they just weren't getting the views or they weren't getting traction or they weren't getting the sponsors or whatever. You know, I've spoken plenty of times on my podcast about how I know several people that have maybe quit by episode 10 because it wasn't going the way that they thought. Like we live in a microwave society. We want everything right here, right now. If I don't get a sponsorship from Apple within the next 2 days, then what the fuck am I doing this?
High
you know?
expectations.
Yeah, I mean, you got to temper it, and also goes to show that you're in it for the wrong reasons. You know, like I've been doing this show for 3 years, like, and there's nothing that's stopping me from doing it. Like I still like I feel like I'm actually putting more time and effort and money into this with no gaining at the moment. But that's not stopping me, and that's not why I got into it in the first place.
Right.
So I think the same thing applies to you with filmmaking, because
Yes.
like I'm pretty sure that it's been lucrative for you in some cases and everything. But you ultimately strike me as a guy that even if you never made 1 cent, this is what you were put on this earth to do, was to make fucking films.
That's the honestly the God truth is just when what was I gonna say? The whole point is that you're doing it because you care, you love it. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't be discouraged because you're not getting the attention that you wanted. And originally I was thinking about like maybe it was gonna be sooner, because I was doing like 10-minute and it was becoming 15-minute long episodes. I said, you know what I could give myself something, zero excuse. I could do a video in 4 minutes. I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and then that's it. And I could produce that much faster than doing like 10-15-minute content, because that's when I was overwhelming myself. Because every Monday I'm like, damn, I gotta do this, I gotta edit it down to 15. I was overwhelming myself, and I was a one-man band. So I said, let me give myself zero excuse. I'm gonna create it much shorter. What can I do? I was doing like 3 episodes a day, and then chopping it up and then scheduling it out. And that's how I was doing it throughout the process. I would obviously like switch out my shirt, but what you want to do is give yourself zero excuses and film what you need to film. All right. If you know it's going to be overwhelming, then downscale it. Don't try to over challenge yourself, because you're going to discourage yourself. You know, those high expectations can weigh on your mental, and then it will affect your creative flow. So you want to you got to know yourself. If you know you could do it, then do it. You know what I'm saying? And then in that process, you're like, you know what? I could do maybe 7 minutes now. You know what I'm saying? Because now I could edit videos faster because of the concentration. Because I have to make 4 minutes more interesting than given all that time to hit that 15 minutes. So I was like, all right, let me add this graphics. Let me add this in there. Let me put some music in there. So I was like, all right, well now I got my flow. So now I'm more confident. And on top of that, I just didn't like the way I was talking. Not that way I was talking. I just didn't like my voice.
Okay.
After a few episodes, out the window. And I felt more confident with myself. So that's when I was like, you know what? I could do this.
Round of applause, round of applause, round of applause for I Am Zain. All right, so listen, man, I know we're pressed for time. You got to be somewhere, the ever busy I Am Zain. But before we get out of here, real quick, what other projects do you have going forward with I Am Zain Studios?
So right now I'm working with the Horror Digest Volume 1, and we are working on a project, like a horror movie project, which is an anthology. And one of the episodes that I directed and wrote as well as filmed is called What's Inside. And What's Inside follows like a writer that's she's going through some things and she's trying to find her edge, but she's also being like stalked by some ominous force, and that's just messing with her mental this entire time, and the audience doesn't know if it's real or not, and she is also in the same boat. So that's the kind of like psychological thriller that's about to be slowly coming out, and that should be coming out hopefully by next year.
Be on the lookout, ladies and gentlemen, the Hardest Digest. That's right.
The Horror Digest.
The Horror Digest, excuse me. Yes.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for that. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to close out this episode in a little bit, but now it's time for the final segment of First Class, Second Place. If you've never seen the show before, excuse me, this segment now is called This or That. What happens is I ask Zain multiple choice questions, basic ones that we ask everybody, and also ones that are tailored around him. It's basically, it was inspired from Black Sheep. You can get with this, you can get with that. The choice is yours. Yeah. So just an opportunity to just put everything on a close, have positive, and also and get the audience a little bit more about what you're about,
Okay.
Get to know you a little bit more. All right, you ready, Marv? He's ready. You ready, Zain?
I love that sound.
All right, only at Bravery Studios, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for This or That, you, Mr. Zain.
Right.
Playlist or podcast?
Ooh, playlist.
Slides or Crocs?
Slides.
Beach or pool?
Beach.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Are you an early bird or night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Introvert or extrovert?
Damn, I'm in between. I'm gonna say I'm really an introvert, but I force myself to be an extrovert. So
Okay.
I'll go with extrovert.
Okay. To give or to receive?
To give.
Batman or Superman?
Batman, man. You should.
I didn't even get to finish the sentence. You already know.
What?
Are you glass half empty or glass half full?
Glass half full.
Would you rather be embarrassed or be afraid?
I'd rather be afraid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fear is healthy. It's fine.
Yeah.
Would you rather be too hot or be too cold?
I'd rather be too hot.
Okay. And I never see you hot, bro. It could be 90 degrees and you're still wearing the hoodie, man. I don't know what it is, man. Do you prefer the window seat or the aisle seat?
Ooh, window.
Okay. Are you book smart or street smart?
I'm street smart.
Reading or writing?
Writing.
Ice water or room temperature?
Room temperature.
Abstract or realism?
Abstract.
Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino?
Quentin Tarantino.
Drake or Kendrick Lamar?
Shit gets harder, man.
That's what she said.
I'm gonna say Drake.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Drake. Yeah.
And then finally, teamwork or solo project?
Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for This or That. And that is going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. Thank you to my guest, Zain, for coming through, man.
Thank you,
Always
man.
a pleasure talking to you, brother. Always a pleasure working with you. Anybody want to give a shout out to real quick before I close out?
I want to give a shout out to I Am Zain Studios, as well as the Horror Digest, as well as Ankit and Alexandria. for sticking with me and filming with me for all these years and believing in me. Thank y'all. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and shout out to Ace, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to my dog Ace.
Shout out to Ace, shout out to Monty, shout out to Rocco, everybody, everybody dogs, everybody.
Everybody.
All right, where can they find you real quick on social media?
So on Instagram, you can find me on I Am Zain Magazine, as well as I Am Zain Studios, both on Instagram, and on YouTube, it's only I Am Zain Studios.
All right. Looking forward to working with you again, bro. I had a blast with you here. I've had a blast with you elsewhere. And yeah, you're the truth, man. I really appreciate your work, and I appreciate you taking the time for coming on the show again.
Thank
bro.
you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, brother. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I'm Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube at Jason Enrique. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. This has been the First Class, Second Place podcast. We out.